coming up on the Inside Indiana Business television podcast, a special edition of the show focusing on women in business with high-profile guests and guest hosts. We'll feature women leaders in industries including technology, life sciences, construction, education, sports, and alcohol. And our special Insiders panel will cover topics including the wage gap, mentoring, and how to get more women into leadership positions, corporate boards, and political offices. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. This week, we spotlight the women taking leadership positions in Indiana business. The special edition of our show features big-name guests and guest hosts to spotlight the incredible work that women are doing in Indiana. In that spirit, let's turn the podcast over to Inside Indiana Business reporter Kylie Valletta.
Thank you, Andy. The Chief Operating Officer of Indianapolis-based The Finish Line says more women need to be represented on boards and senior management teams for companies to improve their bottom lines. Melissa Greenwell, who outlines the argument in her book Money on the Table, joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to discuss the issue.
You have been Chief Operating Officer for about 2 years at The Finish Line.
Correct.
You've been with the company for more than 9 years. Just to kind of tee things up, we want to talk about your book, but as you look at the landscape in Indianapolis, generally speaking in Indiana, for women in executive leadership positions, C-suite execs, board positions, how would you characterize it?
Well, we are making some progress, but there is still great opportunity. Women still hold less than 20% of executive positions.
As you look at the reasons, people will say, why is it so important to have women in executive leadership positions? A number of reasons for that. Among them, some data that points to financial performance.
Right. It's really about the money. I mean, when you think about the power of diversity of thought, to think that most of the time we're missing one of the genders in the gender diversity scenario, then we're absolutely not getting to the best solutions.
You really get at the issue in your book, which you released a little over a year ago, Money on the Table. First of all, what prompted you to write the book?
Yeah. So in 2014, I became involved with an organization called Mentoring Women's Network. It's now Pass the Torch Foundation. And that same year, Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, was released. And so the media started writing about this topic. You couldn't pick up a paper without seeing an article about the lack of women in senior leadership and on boards. So while there was much attention on this issue and the problem, no one was really talking about what do we do about it, what's the solution. And so that's what Money on the Table is designed to do, to provide the roadmap for a solution. What
are some of the things that lots of organizations talk about wanting to increase and get more gender balance in their organizations? What's stopping them? What are they not doing that maybe they could to change things?
Well, not being thoughtful about how we achieve that, not being deliberate enough. More now means more later, so we really have to build the pipeline early in the process. And then we have to do the things that are necessary to keep female talent. So, as we see people progress through their careers, women progress through their careers, they start to fall out of the workforce about the time they achieve that manager, director level, which is a shame because we've invested so much in this talent, and then they leave our companies and organizations.
Yeah, you have a list of 10 rules, 10 tips in the book that are very interesting. Among them, taking more risks on female employees.
Yes, absolutely. So, women as a gender are more apt to wait to be recognized for their good work, as opposed to always raising their hands like our male colleagues do. And so I think sometimes we have to take a closer look around, and we have to invite someone to take an opportunity. And so that means taking a risk, because we don't always automatically notice those people.
You also talk about creating a brand that is inclusive. Branding is important.
Right.
When you talk about branding in this gender balanced situation, what do you mean?
Yeah. So we have to think about how our companies can connect to women and how we market that to women, whether it's a product or a service. We have to think about our culture and how that attracts female talent. What are the great things that we're doing to keep our female talent? And we need to create a brand around that.
I want to touch quickly, you mentioned mentoring, how important that is to the
Absolutely.
process.
It should be in the job description of every senior executive.
And very quickly, the reaction to the book. You've gotten a lot of reaction.
Yes, great reaction over this last year. I think, too, in the current political climate, we're gaining a little momentum as well. But it's actually gotten a great reaction.
All right. The book is Money on the Table. Melissa Greenwell, the COO at The Finish Line, the author, getting some great reviews. Melissa, thanks for being on as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Still to come, the woman behind some of the biggest construction projects in southwest Indiana and a spotlight on a woman-led coding education company. But first, Bloomington-based startup The Bee Corporation has landed more than $250,000 in funding to boost research on its beehive monitoring system. The new model will focus on data aimed at addressing common threats to beehive health. CEO Ellie Sims talked about the effort with segment guest host Sarah Croft, Senior Director of Communications with TechPoint.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about why you founded the B Corp?
Yeah, so we founded the B Corp because of the problems associated with hive loss. We have half the hives in the U.S. that we had in 1960. So when I founded this company, I had read some interesting studies that had used sensors to research beehives. And I thought that those would be really interesting to actually apply to industry and solve practical problems for beekeepers. And so that's been the main business model since we've started.
Wow, that's fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit more about how your product actually works, how the software was created, and what talent it might possibly take to get that thing up and going?
Yeah, so we put sensors in beekeepers' hives. It's IoT sensors, Internet of Things. And those sensors actually communicate to our cloud database. And then we have algorithms that run and analyze the data. So you're kind of combining a lot of different aspects of technology. And so we partner with a hardware company, NimbeLink, for the sensors. For the software, we've worked with a software development firm in Bloomington. But we also had to hire all the data scientists and analysts internally. And that was definitely a challenge. We have partnered with IU and Extern and have done a lot of internships through IU. And we'll have our first Extern this summer. And that's all data science related internships. And for hiring full-time, we ended up posting the job first on Indeed and LinkedIn and got over 600 applications.
Wow.
It was completely overwhelming. And so as we were filtering through those, we realized that we really needed to focus on quality. So instead of kind of casting the net broadly, I ended up picking a few data science programs in the country that I thought were really teaching their students well. And that's where we got our first hire. Gretchen Riggs came from Galvanize program that we had targeted.
That's amazing. That's great to hear how you're solving some of our agricultural challenges through data. And it appears that investors and funders are also quite interested in how you solve these problems too. You just received a $225,000 grant from the National Science Foundation. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more about what you plan to use the funding for.
Yeah, so this is to research pest and disease detection in the hive. So we have two products that currently help beekeepers detect problems in their hives, but we really wanted to focus on this pest and disease issue. Varroa mites are the biggest issue in beekeeping right now. A lot of money gets spent on testing beehives and treating them for this mite, and so we're hoping to kind of make that process a little bit more efficient. So this grant allows us to do that R&D. It allows us to hire data scientists to analyze that data and to finish off our software as well.
Fabulous. And this isn't the only grant that you've received so far. You've had additional funding from the Indiana Small Business Development Corporation. Why don't you talk to us a little bit more about the other funders that have gotten you along to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of Indiana resources we've used. So even with the NSF grant, we used IEDC and Elevate to actually, they matched the grant and gave us $50,000. So that actually will help make sure that grant gets further along. And we also worked with ISBDC on their mentor program grant. So that actually funded the software development that's going to kind of be wrapped around the research we're doing.
Fabulous. Well, we are super excited to hear that you've been nominated for one of our TechPoint Mirror Awards in the Rising Star category. Another congratulations for you.
Thank you.
What does it mean to you to see that your name is among those lists of other individuals also nominated for the award?
I mean, I'm extremely honored. It's always a little weird to have my name be up there because obviously my team is amazing and are the reason we've gotten this far. And that includes, the people I'm working with every day in the office, but also our mentors and advisors. So it's always a little weird to have me up on a pedestal, but we're all very excited at the B Corp. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary 2 days ago. So things are going really well. And I think the Mirror Awards kind of captures kind of where we are in our company and the growth we've had. So I'm extremely honored.
Yeah, congratulations on the nomination, Ellie, and we're
Thank you.
excited to see where the company goes from here.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah.
Later in the podcast, a woman-led tech company zeroes in on coding, and we talk to the woman behind some of the biggest sporting events in Indiana's history. But now, Barb Dahm has been part of some of the biggest construction projects in southwest Indiana, including major efforts in Princeton, Newburgh, and downtown Evansville. These days, she's helping oversee a $70 million project with lead contractor Skanska. Dahm spoke with guest host and WGU Indiana Chancellor Allison Barber.
Barb, tell us a little bit about your background. You started at IU in computer science and business, and then from that STEM education degree, you transitioned to construction management. Walk us through that.
Oh, wow. It's been an adventure. I graduated, like I said, from IU. And when I graduated, not telling my age, but the IBM PC was invented. We had 8-inch floppies at that time. I worked for an underground construction company at that time, and I rewrote the estimating systems. Well, they needed an additional person to work with the U.S. Department of Reclamation with Hoover Dam and scheduling. And I went out to that project. I got more and more involved in the project, got more involved with the field engineering, and then it just took off from there. I said, I don't want to be the systems analyst. I want to be out on the job. I want to learn all the engineering, and it just took from there.
So has your pathway been learning each step of the way?
It's been learning each step of the way, challenging myself, and it's like, you just don't have to do this the rest of your life. You can do anything that you want to do. So it's like being out in the field and being involved with those projects, seeing what you can build, whether it's infrastructure projects or a hospital or a building or roadways. It's been exciting. I like being out in the field.
Yeah. So Barb, you talked about how you started off and it was the IBM. In Indiana, we're really proud of our technology infrastructure and ecosystem that we've created, and we're seeing how technology is really disrupting so many of our industries. How does technology meet up and disrupt the construction industry? How are you using technology?
In technology in construction, it's amazing. I don't know if you've heard of BIM, but Building Information Modeling. It's almost like if you have PlayStation. You can build the building within the computer program, the CAD. You can take your customers and clients, walk through the building. You can change the wallpapers, the landscapes, etc. On my last project, I've purchased 27 iPads that we have used out in the field. That way we didn't have the paper drawings. You take an iPad out in the field and you have the drawings right at hand, and all the foremen have those.
Yeah. So why should someone consider a career in construction management? If you met with somebody today, why would you recommend this type of work?
It's exciting. I mean, when you can be involved in changing people's lives. It's meeting new customers, new clients, developing those relationships. Whether I'm building a hospital, a school, a manufacturing plant, I have those relationships with the customers and clients I've done. I can drive by and say, I helped build that.
Yeah. And how would someone prepare today for a construction management career?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of great Indiana schools to prepare in construction management. I mean, they have those CM programs either from Purdue or ISU or Rose-Hulman, et cetera. But, as a female, I don't think that you could graduate with a mathematics, physics, any type of those degrees. Just empower yourself. Yeah. Just never stop learning.
And then tell us in our last few seconds here, what excites you about Evansville?
Oh, Evansville is the third largest city in Indiana, and it's just amazing. The downtown redevelopment, along with the medical school that I'm part of, the streetscapes projects, connecting the downtown with everything, restaurants, the Ford Center. You know, everybody was out at the suburbs, but now they're being driven downtown. It's amazing, especially the beautiful river.
Yeah, great. Well, Barb, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you,
Congratulations on your success in your career. And thanks for what you're doing to make Indiana really a great place for all of us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, a woman working to make Indiana a sports capital and a spotlight on some of the leading women in Indiana's alcohol industry. But first, Codalicious is a woman-led technology company that develops and licenses educational curriculum for teaching problem-solving and analytical thinking through coding. Co-founder Christine McDonnell is an electrical and computer science engineer. She talked about the company's aggressive growth plans with guest host and Farm LLC CEO Aaron Albert.
Let's start with a 50,000-foot view. Tell us about Codalicious and your role.
Yeah, so at Codalicious, our mission is to transform the way that elementary and middle school educators are able to teach kids how to code. So we deliver a fully vetted, comprehensive, in-person teacher-led curriculum that educators can use to begin instructing students as early as 3rd grade, and we have curriculum that advances them up through 8th grade.
Love that. And we were talking off camera about the kind of triple methodology that a lot of your platform is focused around. Can you share that with our listeners and watchers?
Yeah, so one of the ways that we engage students through our curriculum is developing the content to address their different learning styles. And so there are certain aspects of the curriculum that have them in front of the computer doing coding and learning projects that way. But we also have other segments which take them away from the computer and provide them hands-on activities that reinforce the coding concepts that are up for instruction through either hardware development or other activities. And then we have a kinesthetic portion, which is a get up and move, which we really try to reinforce the same coding concepts that we're teaching in front of the computer in a way that makes it fun and dynamic for students to learn.
Can you talk about some of the partners that Codalicious has partnered up with and what your future ambitions are around that?
Yeah, so the exciting thing about Codalicious is we've actually reached out to quite a few partners within the state of Indiana. So on the one hand, we have our educators and our school systems who are running with our curriculum today, bringing it into the school day and educating students in the basic concepts and skills of computer science and problem solving. On the other hand, we also power external activities in the community. So we have a partnership with the Girl Scouts of Central Indiana, and we have a partnership with other community organizations where they are interested in providing these types of curriculum to their patrons, and we build content for them as well to educate additional members in the community.
And can you share your own story and passion for coding?
Yeah, so I remember the day my math teacher who had brought computer science and computers into the school, and I must have been asking her some questions because she asked me to stay after class, and then she opened up the back of the computer, which I didn't even know the back of the computer could open up. And when she did that and she explained to me how this complex array of hardware was able to execute simple commands by utilizing a computer program, I was hooked. I went on to earn undergraduate degrees in electrical engineering and computer science, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and we were talking off camera as well about STEM and the initiative at a broader level. Can you talk a little bit about that, because we share that passion?
Yeah, I think the opportunity for STEM, particularly as it relates to the elementary and middle school students, is exposing them to anything that they can do with it to help build their confidence. Because all projects in the world of STEM require a persistence or a problem-solving analytic where it never works the first time, perhaps not the second time, and many times not the 10th time. And so when you are actually able to build that confidence at a younger age that allows you to problem solve and collaborate and navigate through the challenges that are presented through any STEM curriculum, in our case it's coding and hardware, then it builds that confidence so that as they move through their own education, they can see themselves doing these roles in the workforce.
And last question, really briefly, what's your view for Codalicious 2 to 5 years from now? now?
Yeah, so we have very exciting aspirations for Codelicious. So we built out a platform of courses. We have 8 different ones that educators can license today. Our interest is taking it not only across the state, but across the United States as well. So our objective for the next 12 months is 100 schools, with 20% of them outside of Indiana. And our growth patterns after that have us on target for large revenue growth over the next 5 years.
Well, thank you so much, Christine McDonald of Codelicious. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you, Erin. It's been wonderful.
Later in the podcast, the local ladies of alcohol and a special edition of The Insiders. But now, Allison Millington is one of the main reasons the Super Bowl in Indianapolis is widely considered a success. Now, as Senior Vice President of Events for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, she is focusing on the 102nd running of the Indianapolis 500. She spoke with Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redman.
So let's get right to it. The Indy 500 just around the corner. What's your day-to-day like right now?
Well, we have a lot going on now that we've hit the 100-day out mark and counting down towards May. I look at event planning as a huge jigsaw puzzle. So we've got hundreds and hundreds of pieces that we're trying to put together, and those interlocking pieces then cause lots of meetings, lots of communications, lots of collaboration. So I would say most of our days right now are spent going through our planning, refining our planning, and then starting to execute everything as we head into May.
Are there any new twists we're going to see this upcoming race?
Well, every year we try to certainly improve our spectator experience. The month of May is a global destination for so many people. So what we try to do every year is have different things for different people. So if one thing doesn't work for you, we've got something else. Because really we've got 30 days in May that we want people to come to Indianapolis, enjoy the track, enjoy the region. So we've got a couple new things this year. One is we've got tiny houses on property. So we had introduced our glamping experience a few years ago. We're actually putting tiny houses on our property this year, so people will be staying in like little hotels around the property. So that'll be a new experience for us this year to see how that is. We have just finished announcing all of our music talent, and our concert events continue to grow. Our talent continues to get better. We've certainly got A+ talent. So each year we've sort of elevated our spectator experience and tried to make sure that we've got something for everybody that everyone can enjoy.
Speaking of something for everyone to enjoy, there's one woman that's going to be making a big debut, her final race, Danica Patrick, ending her career at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Your thoughts, first of all, and secondly, how do you think this will affect ticket sales?
Yeah, well, Danica's had an incredible career. She's an incredible name. We're thrilled. She's picked us as our last race, and we've been working with she and her team to make sure she has a great experience, and we provide everything that she needs for her to be successful there. So we couldn't be happier that she's chosen us to end her career. And then we do think it'll have a positive effect on ticket sales. You know, there's a lot of Danica fans. It's certainly throughout her different career in IndyCar and NASCAR, she's attracted a lot of fans, not just female, but also male. So we expect our ticket sales to get a little bump from her, and certainly she's always good for a great soundbite, so we'll be getting a lot of good media from her either way.
And kind of switching gears here to your personal journey. I would say not all, but many people think that the sports industry is really a male-dominated profession, and you've been in the thick of it for 25 years. How have you been able to succeed?
You know, I've had a great career in, as you said, many male-dominated sports, certainly from the Super Bowl and now in racing. And the majority of the men that I work with have all been fabulous. I've had a great experience. And I've always looked at it as I just need to be the best that I can be. It's not male-female. It's I need to be the best I can be all the time. I started feeling that way very young as a female in these male-dominated sports. And that's an attitude that's worked really well for me, to be the best. I'm a very driven person, and if I'm the best, I'm going to be recognized for that. And so I have never really felt that sort of, pull haul between the male-female part in this sport, even though I've always been in the minority.
With your experience, how have you seen opportunities for women change over the years?
Yeah, particularly the last 25 years. When I first got into sports management, there were very, very few females. And then over time, that has really changed and shifted. And there's many women in leadership in worldwide in sports, but certainly in Indianapolis, the Colts, the Pacers, and so forth, all have women in leadership. And so I've seen it grow and evolve. And certainly the women that were involved at the very beginning laid a great path for the rest of us. And, I think there's many, many opportunities opportunities out there for women in sports, and I haven't felt any prejudice against that because I have been a woman.
Any advice?
Work hard, be the best at every single thing you do, and you'll absolutely be recognized and have opportunities.
All right, Allison, thank you so much for joining us. And again, best of luck. May 27th, the Indy 500, the 102nd running. I'm sure you've got a lot to do.
Yes.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Still to come, a special insiders panel weighs in on the top issues facing women in business. But first, Indiana's alcohol scene wouldn't be where it is without leading women mixologists, brewers, distillers, and entrepreneurs. Yelp Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith takes a look at some of the women making waves in the industry with Smiley Morning Show co-host Nikki Reed.
How's it going?
Good. I'm excited to be celebrating these women and the alcohol industry.
Yes. Well, let's start out with Indianapolis right here. We've got Garden Party. It's super delicious.
Yes. Erin Eds, as we were mentioning off air, wonderful product, very creative. She is the Innovator of the Year with Beverage Industry. 8% alcohol goes in these hard sodas, but it's not just your average hard soda. She's taking them and mixing them with cocktails, local spirits, mixing them with ice creams to make fun little hard soda floats. Erin is such a creative spirit, constantly coming up with new business ideas and really operating a 5-star business.
Well, and they're great to take on picnics
yes.
too.
Yes.
And we've got Bear Wallow Distillery. Now, this is in Nashville, correct?
Yes, Nashville, Indiana, known historically for the distillers, and this is one of the first craft distilleries in the state. The beautiful thing about this business, first female-owned distillery in Indiana, and what she was seeing is how many Indiana farmers were sending their grains down to Louisville, down to Kentucky for bourbon, and they're like, why don't we keep that here and start making these spirits in Nashville? So now you can visit their tasting room, try their different spirits, and know that all of the ingredients in them are Indiana grains.
Yeah, we got to keep it at home.
That's right, all right here.
McCordsville, we're talking about Scarlet Lane Brewery.
Yes, Elise Lane at Scarlet Lane and the entire team at this business really want to bring women to the beer industry. It's often overlooking women from the marketing scene to how the product is made, and other groups like Girls Pint Out in Indiana are really bringing awareness to this. So in McCordsville, Scarlet Lane is one of those places where you can go see a woman that's making it, a brewer behind the scenes, the owners, the investors, through and through women at that business.
Loving it. Also in McCordsville, Daniel's Vineyard, correct?
Yes, not too far away. This business just kicked off in 2017. Not only is it a female-driven business, it's a family-owned business. So a mother and 3 daughters. Everything that you see from the labels on the wine bottles to the vines out in the front area that they've been growing since 2010 to the wine itself is made by that family. And on site at that business, you're also going to find a restaurant with a wood-fired oven for pizza. They even brought on a raclette machine last month, so you can have the cheese straight from a raclette machine from Switzerland. Pair that with your wines. It's a really fun business. 2 great female businesses in McCordsville right there.
And I know Daniel's Vineyard also does the trivia and comedy and stuff like that.
And wine
too.
slushies to pair with it. People love a wine slushie right there on their patio. Live music, great events. Yeah,
absolutely. Back in Indianapolis, we're talking about Vita, that amazing restaurant. Love it. And also Jane Kim, their mixologist.
Yeah, 59% of the bartenders in the high-end cocktail industry are males. It's a male-dominated industry. So we really wanted to spotlight some of those female bartenders that are really kicking butt around Indianapolis and Indiana. And Jane Kim is one of those that stood out in the Yelp reviews. Folks loved her Sazerac, where she's using cognac in it and really being creative right there at Vita. So you can saddle up to their bar, have some of their great cuisine, see them making the charcuterie on site, and then meet Jane Kim.
And finally in Bristol, Fruit Hills Winery and Orchard.
Yes, this is representing the northern Indiana area. This wonderful winery has a really fun program where you can get a tasting card for the year, an annual tasting card for only $5. So it's a really fun way to revisit the winery throughout the year and try their apple wine that they're known for and keep coming back throughout the year.
Brittany, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And finally this week, a special edition of The Insiders focuses on opportunities and challenges for women in Indiana business. This week's panel includes Rolls-Royce Chief of Business Integration Tiffany White, Women for Change Indiana Executive Director Rima Shahid, and the Mind Trust Senior Vice President Camila Shahid Diallo. Our guest host is Kiwanis Youth Programs Executive Director Christina Hale.
So, Indianapolis and our great state of Indiana has a very ambitious business agenda coming over the next 1 to 5 years. A lot of opportunity, but certainly I think we all acknowledge more women are needed in the talent pool. How do we encourage and develop women to pursue positions of leadership, executive leadership, elected leadership? Tiffany, what do you think?
So we have a lot of women already in our pipeline. They're already in business. They're already in organizations like Rolls-Royce and some of the organizations you're in. What we really need to do is give them role models, give them mentors, give them sponsors. We know that when women have the opportunity to have these mentors and have these sponsors, they will want to go up the line, and they will want to have that opportunity to be in leadership roles and to be in roles of higher opportunities.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we often think about is that there needs to be a formal program to bring this about. And I think that formal programs are great, but there's also just a lot of networking we can do as women, making sure that if you're in a position, if you're at the room, you think what other woman's voice needs to be at this table. And making sure that there are opportunities to bring other women along, I think can really change what our leadership structure looks like here in the city and the state.
Yeah. I know that Billy Dragoo and former Lieutenant Governor Sue Ellspermann have long worked on getting women on corporate boards, but certainly in the corporate world, there's been quite a wage disparity. In fact, in Indiana, I think the wage gap is about 74 cents on the dollar to our male colleagues. Not acceptable. Not acceptable. Rima, what do you think about that?
I think if I remember correctly, Indiana has the 6th largest wage gap in the nation, and for minorities, we earn 44 cents to $1 and 34 cents to $1 to our male counterparts, and that's not acceptable. I don't think the women of Indiana, the only thing that's holding us back right now are our Indiana laws, because we have the talent, we have the capabilities, and we need to move forward as a state.
When we come to talent and talent development, what's next? Certainly education plays a big role in that. Yes. Camila, you work in this field. What are your thoughts?
So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for women within education, but also I think that the opportunities are just kind of endless in terms of where we can be and doing great work. I think that women, we've seen there's a lot of research that just says organizations are better when women's voices are included. So I think that there's a lot of research to support organizations doing that. But I think that the other part is women can do it, but we need male allies who also champion this cause. So I think we need everyone to participate in doing this. Education is one field, but there are a lot of others as well.
I also feel that if you have the opportunity, if you have a seat at the table, extend a hand down. Yeah. Extend a hand down and bring someone up with you, because we need to continue to grow this table, to continue to have more females and more women in leadership.
So absolutely. I think everyone should bring a hand down. Everybody should be mentoring somebody that doesn't look like them or think like them. We should all be mentoring someone that maybe isn't our gender or isn't our race, maybe not our sexual orientation, or maybe didn't grow up in the same way or the same place that we didn't grow up. So whether we're a man or a woman or black or white or Hispanic, we should be looking to mentor someone that isn't like us.
That's a great point, and that's certainly a casual way that we can go about a less structured program. But we also, I think, need to be concerned about positional power. Only 1 in 5 lawmakers in the great state of Indiana happen to be women. We need more. And if you do a survey around the state, we don't have enough women in executive leadership. We've never had a woman governor. We have very few women mayors. What do we do? Now, at this time, it seems we have a lot of women coming out to run for office. We have a couple of organizations like the Lugar Series and the new Hoosier Women Forward that are encouraging people, and your organization too, right, Rima?
Yes, we were very happy to have the inaugural Ready to Run, and we had around 114 participants in Ready to Run. And it was a nonpartisan to get women to run for office, and it's an exciting time. I think 2018, like you said, there's more millennials running for office, more women running for office, more minorities running for office. Something that I'm really hoping for is that we would have a woman running for senator. Indiana's never had a woman senator yet, and that's something that I'm really hoping for. And I think there's a lot of organizations that have formed, and you just have to get to know Indiana has endless talents and possibilities.
Just one other thought on the political piece. There's a lot of studies that talk about who actually runs for office. And one of the things that I found interesting about elected office is that women often don't nominate themselves. Yes. So they need to be asked to run. And so if there's a person in your community that you think would be a great elected official, you know they care about the issues, they really believe strongly and have strong positions, encourage them to run, because they often won't just put their hand up and say, I should do it.
So much like the political realm, in corporate world, women often don't ask for a promotion. Mm-hmm. Right. So much like the same thing, we need CEOs and men in powerful positions to reach down and say, you're a really great lady. You're going to go places. You have potential, and reach down and sponsor her and promote her up, mentor her, sponsor her, and say you can do the next role and make her the next vice president, the next senior vice president, and get her into that position.
I'm glad to hear you say that too. And whenever I speak to groups of women, I always say the universe is tapping you on the shoulder right now. Think about it. Why not you? Absolutely. Whether it's in the workplace or whether it's in, the State House.
Absolutely.
But what progress do you feel we have made so far? Is it enough, or what do we need to be doing? I see a big Tiffany shaking her head no.
We are making progress. So when I graduated in engineering 25 years ago, a little while ago, there was only 10% of the graduating class were women. We're almost double that now, 25 years. So that's great, double, almost 19%. But that was 25 years ago. Not fast enough and not enough. Another statistic is 19% of Congress, U.S. Congress, that's double what it was 20 years ago. Not enough and not fast enough. And then we always hear the statistics that 5% of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, we know that's not enough. So we got to go faster.
I think the progress is something that gives us momentum to keep going forward. I remember when I graduated from law school, I was one of the first classes where we were majority women. And
really?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
And so you think, well, that's going to change what the legal profession looks like because you're going to actually have more women lawyers. But the entry into leadership and running law firms and having partnership track is not going fast enough. But I think that this is where there's an opportunity for women who sit on boards, who are in leadership positions, to put metrics to these things. The intention is great, but we need to have tools where we can measure progress. So when organizations have said we need X% to be women, minorities, whatever the measure is, you measure what you value. And once you put measurements to those goals, then I think you can actually make a lot of progress.
You've also all mentioned the importance of relationships in one way or another. So how do we network women for success here in our state?
I think as women, at times we tend to scare other women. It's so hard to balance work and family life. It's so hard to do this. It's so hard to do that. Instead, I think we need to empower and encourage one another. You've got this. You can do this. If I can do this, so can you. I think that's so important to me because I know when I started to work, a lot of people were discouraging me, scaring me. You have young children. How are you going to do it? It's going to be hard. You won't have time for anything. And you know what? There's a lot you can fit into 24 hours once you're determined.
So what's a practical idea? What do you do, Tiffany? I mean, we're not taking the time to golf all afternoon. When you're mentoring, when you are supporting these younger women, down a little bit down the corporate ladder, lifting them up, like where do you do it? Is it over lunch, over coffee?
Sure. So I do a lot of it over lunch. I do some of it on the phone. I am a Pass the Torch for Women 500 Circle member, specifically because I want to intentionally mentor women that don't look like me. And so I do that, but I do that over the phone, and I'm usually grabbing a sandwich while I do it. Sometimes I do it on the phone in the evenings while I'm traveling overseas. So in the evenings overseas, it's during the day here, so I can do that. So I do some of that. That's how I mentor women or others that I can do that when I can.
But it sounds like we're all kind of prepared to step up and be superheroes for other women. Any last advice?
I think women are incredible multitaskers, so we figure out how to fit it in.
We do, don't we?
Whether it's like I invite young women over to my home while I'm with my kids, like maybe having breakfast. There's a young student in college who we were trying to find times, and I said, hey, could you come over on a Sunday morning? So we can find ways to do it in the course of our regular lives, but the important thing is that it happens.
Ask for help. Ask for help from ladies like us. Ask for help from places like Women in High Tech. Ask for help from your spouse or your friends. Ask for help.
Yeah, and have each other's backs, I think, too, don't you?
Yeah. When we uplift one another, we all rise. I think that's important.
That's exactly it. When we uplift each other, we all rise. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I really appreciate you all being here today.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments as well as the top business news from throughout the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Kylie Valletta for Inside Indiana Business.